Hi, I'm Dr Steve Brookes. I'm a Senior Fellow here at the Alliance Manchester Business School, and I work in the Health Policy Group together with my colleagues. I've been here for 10 years now, but prior to coming to the business school, I'd actually spent more than 30 years as a practitioner in the real world of leadership. So I came to the business school with quite a rich and varied background of leading across a number of different sectors, including, but not just limited to, policing, central government, regional government, but most importantly, working in a collaborative way across a whole range of different public sector organisations. My interests at the business school are very much about collective leadership, which is what I'm here to talk to you about on this particular session. It's something that I'm very passionate about, it's something that I believe is really important, and hopefully when I've given you a very brief description of what I mean by collective leadership, you hopefully will share that passion and want to go forward and make a difference. What I'd like to be able to do in this short session is to explain firstly why our approach to leadership at Manchester Business School differs from approaches that you may have seen elsewhere. And secondly, to briefly describe how our approach to leadership will help you as a developing leader to take a much wider perspective in your day-to-day working life. The main aspect that I want to talk about is the difference between collective and individual leadership. One thing that we can say about leadership is that it's been spoken about for as long as humans have inhabited this earth, and in fact it even predates our human ancestors, and we can look back to the primates and the dominant approach that we see, for example, in silverback gorillas. But of course today, leadership is far more complex, and some of the earliest writing that we can look back to in terms of leadership goes back to 1200 BC, Ramesses II, one of the Egyptian pharaohs, who displayed what was reputedly excellent leadership in defeating an army that was much greater than his own. What we have seen since that time, and certainly over the last 4,000 years, is a lot of talk and writing about leadership, but focused primarily on the individual as the leader, rather than leadership being viewed as the property of a community. And that's really the essential distinction that I want to make, to look at leadership as a collective concept rather than that of an individual. How often, for example, have you come across a leader within your own working environment who's actually driven an agenda purely from their own perspective? Not always in the right direction, and very often in the wrong direction. What we hope to be able to do is to encourage you to lead in a much more selfless way, to look at the common goal that's needed for leadership within your organisation, and particularly within your own sector. So what do we mean by collective leadership? I guess the simple explanation is that it's the property of a community, not of an individual. It's about collaborating rather than competing, and it's about working together rather than working on our own individual agendas. So how do we display collective leadership? Well, first and foremost, it's about having a collective vision, knowing what it is that we all want to achieve for the greater good. It's about leading in the public interest, not leading in the self's interest. Secondly, it's about being focused on outcomes, not outputs. Outcomes, again, that reflect the public value, the public interest. And thirdly, it's about acknowledging that leader can emerge from any point within an organisation or any point within a network. It doesn't need to be leadership that's vested in an individual by virtue of his or her position within the organisation. And some of our greatest leaders have actually emerged from a position where they have no authority. And there are many examples that we'll be talking about during the course of your study. Fourthly, it's about working together, working in partnership. Partnership sounds easy enough to do, but it's actually one of the most difficult challenges that faces a leader. You need to work together, you need to understand each other's values, and you need to understand that working together does actually mean that, not going back to your own organisation and then doing what you or your organisation want to do. Fifthly, Being action-oriented is critical to this. Leadership is about improved practice. It's not just about the theories of leadership, and this is one of the unique aspects of our programme, that your learning will be applied to your workplace, and that is absolutely essential to the rationale of our teaching. It's about applying your leadership challenges within the workplace to improve the outcomes that you want to achieve collectively. Sixthly, we also need to consider the systems and structures that support an organisation or its networks. And unless we're looking at a natural system, such as the universe, all systems are created by humans. And one aspect of that is that systems are thus fallible, because humans are fallible. So we need to understand that systems leadership, whilst it's a critical part of the leadership landscape, we need to understand the motivations behind the structures and also the systems that are there to support it. Finally, and certainly not the least important, is the need to build both capacity and capability. And we can only achieve improved leadership if we build the skills and behaviours that are in line with the collective vision. And behaviours, as well as that vision, needs to be very much value-oriented. It needs to understand and recognise the values that we hold both individually, the values that we hold within a team, the values that we hold within an organisation, and not least of which is the values that we hold as a nation. And whatever we do within our workplace, it involves relationships, and relationships are built on values, and it's values that lead to trust. And without trust and legitimacy, leadership is going to be negligible. So that's what we mean by collective leadership. It's not about taking your own individual stance. It's not about being self-motivated for what you want to achieve as a leader. It's about taking your part in the collective vision and ensuring that whatever we do as leaders is going to improve not just leadership practice, but also the value that the public achieve as a result of your efforts and your colleagues' efforts as a leader. So finally, I just want to touch on a key challenge and the key skills. The key challenge over the history of leadership is that there's been far too much management and not enough leadership. And we all know that too much management leads to targets and objectives that don't really reflect what's really important, because the things that are really important are very difficult to measure. So it's about being stronger leaders rather than stronger managers. In terms of the key skills, well, it's about balancing the head and the heart. It's the head and the heart that are critically important in developing the values that good leadership relies upon. And balancing the head and the heart then encourages the hand to do the right things. So if management is about doing things right, leadership is about doing the right things. And if we're able to do the right things in the right way for the right people, then the impact of collective leadership is going to be much stronger than the impact of individual leaders following their own individual and in many cases egocentric agendas. I hope that you enjoy the rest of this course and that you're able to look at the concepts that we describe and, most importantly, take the learning that you achieve from this programme and apply it within your workplace so that the public actually achieve the benefit that they require from your approaches.